Coronation Street's Gary Windass finally returns to his old tricks tonight as he unleashes his revenge against Theo Silverton. After weeks of keeping his cool around Theo, the red mist finally descends in Monday's episode as Gary spots an opportunity to make the villain suffer. The week's first visit to Weatherfield rewinds to the start of Carla and Lisa Connor Swain's wedding day, exploring what was going on elsewhere while the happy couple were exchanging their vows. The episode focuses on Theo and the possibility that he'll be killed off before the week is over. And unsurprisingly, there are plenty of characters harboring grudges against him. Gary steps in to stop Summer Spellman when she plans to destroy Theo's work van, which he's parked up on the cobbles to intimidate Todd Grimshaw and his loved ones. Gary fears that Summer would be making a big mistake if she broke the law to punish Theo, but before long, he's doing exactly that himself. The ruthless builder smashes up Theo's vehicle, in full view of a CCTV camera. He then sends a threatening text message to Theo, in all capitals, "I'm coming for you." Is this a sign that Gary is about to kill again? Or could these just be careless, spur-of-the-moment mistakes that ultimately come back to haunt him if the police start gathering evidence in a murder case? Theo, Carl Webster, Jody Ramsey, Maggie Driscoll and Megan Walsh are the 5 characters in the firing line this week. By Friday's episode, one of them will be found dead. Speaking recently about Theo potentially being the mystery victim, James Cartwright, who plays the villain, teased several suspects. "You've got Carl, obviously. I think Carl's like the tarantula of Coronation Street. He prowls and sinks his teeth into anyone," James explained. "You've also got George. George could do it because he could put Theo in a coffin and bury him and you'd never know. Do you know what I mean? You've got Todd and Summer too. It could be any number of people. Very often with these things, it could be who you least expect. Imagine someone like Summer, he walks into the shop and she just cracks him over the head with a tin of beans, closes the shop sign and sticks him in a bin bag." The cobbles of Weatherfield had a way of keeping secrets, until they didn't. And right now, Coronation Street was sitting on one of its darkest mysteries yet. As Carla and Lisa's wedding celebrations gave way to screams in the night and Betsy's horrifying discovery of a body near the scaffolding, everyone on the street was asking the same question: who was dead? But while Theo Silverton's name sat at the top of the suspect board as both potential victim and villain, 2 chilling clues pointed toward one man who knew exactly how deadly things could become: Gary Windass. Gary had been trying to keep his distance from the chaos lately. Family life with Maria, keeping an eye on Liam, and trying, desperately trying, to stay on the straight and narrow had become his new focus. But Theo had a habit of dragging darkness wherever he went, and Gary could see it from a mile away. He'd seen men like Theo before. Controlling. Dangerous. Smiling one second and threatening the next. And worst of all, Theo had Todd trapped. Gary noticed it before most people did. The way Todd flinched. The way he covered for Theo. The way Theo always seemed to be watching, lurking just close enough to remind everyone he was still there. It reminded Gary of the worst parts of himself. That was the first clue. Gary's sudden protectiveness over Todd wasn't just neighborly concern, it was personal. He knew what violence did to people. He knew how fear changed you. And every time he saw Theo corner Todd, every time he heard another excuse, another lie, Gary's patience wore thinner. People around the street began noticing it. Maria asked one evening as they sat in the living room, "You're thinking about Theo again, aren't you?" Gary didn't answer straight away. He stared at the cold cup of tea in his hands. "Some people," he said quietly, "they don't stop until someone makes them." Maria's face tightened. She knew that tone. She'd heard it before, years ago, when Gary was carrying far more than guilt. "Don't," she warned. Gary gave a small nod, but neither of them truly believed it. Because Gary Windass had history. And Weatherfield never let anyone forget. That was clue number 1, motive. If Theo ended up dead, Gary had a reason. A big one. He wanted Todd safe. He wanted Theo gone. And unlike most people, Gary had crossed that line before. Fans watching from home could almost hear alarm bells ringing. Because Gary wasn't just angry, he was calculating. And then came the second clue. The scaffolding. It stood outside the corner shop like a silent warning, metal poles stretching upward, casting long shadows across the cobbles. Most people barely noticed it anymore. But viewers did. Because Gary had. He'd been the one dealing with it, checking it, moving around it like second nature. He knew every inch of that structure. Every weak point. Every dangerous drop. And then Theo was seen standing there. Watching. High above, near Todd's flat, lurking like some kind of predator. Silent. Menacing. Too close. It was no coincidence. The same place where Betsy would later discover the body. The same place where Carla and Lisa heard that scream. The same place Theo had chosen to hover like a threat. Suddenly, the scaffolding wasn't just background, it was evidence. Fans immediately began piecing it together. Gary knows the scaffolding. Theo is on the scaffolding. A body is found near the scaffolding. It was the kind of clue Coronation Street loved to plant in plain sight. Could it be an accident? A fight gone too far? A shove in the heat of the moment? Gary had defended people before. Sometimes with words. Sometimes with fists. And if Theo pushed Todd too far, if Gary arrived at the wrong moment, would history repeat itself? The street buzzed with whispers. At the Rovers, Sarah mentioned hearing shouting the night before. David claimed Gary had looked like he was ready to kill someone. Even George, never one to miss drama, muttered that funerals had a way of booking themselves in Weatherfield. Meanwhile, Todd was falling apart. He wanted out. Everyone could see it. His suitcase sat half-packed, escape plans floating just out of reach, but Theo always pulled him back. Every threat, every manipulation, every reminder that Theo wasn't finished. And Gary watched. Waiting. One late evening, Todd found him outside, staring at the scaffolding. "You all right?" Todd asked. Gary gave a bitter laugh. "Funny question, that." Todd hesitated. "You don't need to fix this." Gary finally looked at him. "Don't I?" There was silence. Because they both knew the truth. Gary saw himself in Todd, the fear, the regret, the feeling of being trapped by choices you can't undo. And maybe helping Todd was really Gary trying to save himself. But redemption in Coronation Street never came easy. Especially not for Gary Windass. As murder week reached its boiling point, suspicion landed everywhere: Carl, Jody, Megan, Maggie. But Theo remained the center of the storm. Because villains like Theo rarely walked away untouched. And Gary? Gary looked like a man standing on the edge of a decision. One push. One mistake. One moment. That was all it would take. The night of the wedding, fireworks lit the sky as Carla and Lisa celebrated downstairs. Laughter echoed through the street. Music played. But above it all, tension sat heavy. Theo was there. Gary was there. Todd was there.